daughter, a disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is a saint who brought the ancient tradition of Vaishnava culture to America, to the West, in 1965. And this culture is rich with the spiritual science of the world, how it began, what its purpose is, what is our source. All this information is there in the ancient scriptures. And our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, brought this to the West. So I've been practicing Krishna consciousness for over 45 years. And my mother actually introduced me. I grew up in a very serious Christian family. My grandfather was a Christian minister. My grandmother an evangelist. Aunts, uncles, great aunts, all ministers and serious practitioners of the Christian faith. And I grew up and attended the Seventh-day Adventist school as well as public school. Practiced Mormonism because my mother was ever the spiritual seeker student. She really wanted to find God and the truth, and so she took her children with her. I am one of 8 siblings. My mother had 5 boys and 5 girls. And as I've said, I've been studying this ancient wisdom of the Vedas for over 45 years. So the point and purpose of life, having a better understanding of who we are, where we came from, who is God, how we're all connected, why we're suffering. And to learn this information and to myself become a pure servant of God and then to help others. So that's the point. I'm married to a Muslim. We have 19 children. I have 10 children that I am the biological mother of, 5 boys and 5 girls. And my husband and I do marriage education, marriage and family education. We work with couples. We do youth character building. We've worked with agencies and organizations all over the country and outside of the country, teaching healthy relationship workshops, marriage and family based on spiritual principles. So pretty much in a short summary, I'm a senior minister in the local Hare Krishna community here, which is called the Cleveland Namahata program. And we have quite a nice multicultural group of people come together on a regular basis to study these ancient scriptures and to practice them. So,
in reference to the Kali Yuga age,
yes.
Who was responsible for the writing the prophecies of the Kali Yuga?
Okay, so these ancient scriptures that I referred to, they're called the Vedas. Vedas is a Sanskrit word which means knowledge, the ultimate knowledge. And along with creating this world, or these universes, God gave the knowledge, the book of knowledge, and it's said to be the Vedas. So the Vedas describe 4 ages of man. And before 5,000 years ago, people's consciousness and intelligence was evolved enough that there was no need to write anything, because once hearing, people will remember. And this sounds kind of fantastic to us, but it was an oral tradition of passing down the wisdom and the knowledge in these ancient cultures. But 5,000 years ago, the Vedas were written down by Vyasadeva, and he's said to be a literary incarnation of God. So he wrote all the scriptures to benefit us, because he knew the age of Kali, we would not have the resources and access as the previous ages did. So Vyasadeva wrote down all the Vedas, the Puranas, the Ishopanishad, the Upanishads, the Itihasas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and in the Mahabharata is the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Song of God. And he wrote one of the Puranas he wrote is the Srimad Bhagavatam. in that Purana is explicit information about all the yugas and what the qualities and the length of time and that kind of thing.
Now, that just reminded me. So you're saying they prophesied that our memories would get worse?
Yes.
Throughout the times, maybe a 70 or 80-year-old back then, they had the memory of a 30 or 20-year-old?
Or 20, yes. Because Kali Yuga itself is an age in which memory decreases, the lifespan decreases, really a lot of the good qualities of a human being decreases, because Kali Yuga is the age of, it's called the Iron Age of quarrel, hypocrisy, and deceit. And in this age, everything is decreased, all the good qualities of human beings.
But I remember reading in Ethiopia, they had to memorize the Bible, the children. So, and in Africa and even in Native American culture, there's more of an oral tradition in the memory.
Yes.
And as we're going more into technology, auto spell correct and different things is messing up the memory.
Yes.
We can't remember how to spell. So I think that's very important what you just said.
Very important. And it's good to know, Samuel, because, sometimes people think, oh, we're so advanced. But where are we advancing to, and where did we advance from? So actually, a lot of the ancient cultures were a lot more advanced than we are now. Advanced in memory, advanced in finer human qualities like compassion, cleanliness, truthfulness. So, if we call advancement this technology, that's just a better way to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. And the animals do that. But because the human consciousness is meant to understand the higher principles and the mission of life, we shouldn't waste our time with just technological advancement, but spiritual advancement.
Yeah, technology is not really a person.
No.
It's just technology.
It's a means to figure out more how to gratify our senses. In general, that's the whole purpose. How to eat better, how to sleep better, how to mate better, But the animals do that. They eat, sleep, and mate and defend themselves. But with this intelligence that God, Krishna, have given us, we should try to understand, who are we? Where do we come from? Why are we in Kali Yuga? What is, this is why I like your questions, what is Kali Yuga? Because that'll help us get a better sense of why the difficulty that we experience in the world.
Who influenced Vyasa Dev to write the Kali Yuga?
To write down all the scriptures that includes description of Kali Yuga, the Lord himself, God himself. Because we have to realize that God created this world and he's the ultimate best wisher of it. So whenever things get off track, he either comes himself in some incarnation or he'll send a very pure representative to help the human population get back on track. So Vyasadeva was a literary incarnation of God. So he wrote down all these scriptures for our benefit, knowing that in Kali Yuga we would need the light from these ancient scriptures.
Okay. And when does it begin? How long does it last?
Okay. So the scriptures tell us that when God first created the world, the universe, everything was good and very good. And that's in line with the Vedas, that there are 4 ages of humankind. The age of goodness, and the age of passion, a mixed age, and then the age of ignorance. Well, Kali Yuga is the age of ignorance. But in the beginning, when creation was first created, everything was good. That was called the Satya Yuga. People lived for 100,000 years. Their memory was fantastic. There was all goodness and, all the sublime qualities of a human being existed.
So and this is a debate you see, we're devolving. Yeah. We're not evolving.
Well, Some people are evolving because it's a choice. Spiritually. In any age, you can make the choice to use your intelligence as a human being to do higher, more spiritual things. But in general, this age is the fallen age, it's said. So you had the age of goodness where people lived, it's called the Satya Yuga, and people lived 100,000 years. The next age was 3/4 goodness, 75%, and people lived 10,000 years average. And that was called the Treta Yuga. And then the next age was the Dwapara Yuga, where it's 50-50, half good, half, materialistic. And that people lived 1,000 years. And there's some slight references to those ages even in the Christian Bible, like Methuselah lived 900-something years and like that. But Kali Yuga, which is the most fallen age, is people live 100 years at most, in average. So that shows how the age duration of time was diminishing. And Kali Yuga started 432,000. It lasts 432,000 years, of which we've passed about 5,000 years. Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago. And there are 427,000 more years of this age to go. Now what happens, Samuel, is that generally everything would just diminish. Age, behavior, qualities, time, everything. But this Kali Yuga is said to be a very special one, in which somehow by the mercy of God, Krishna, he's interrupting. Within this Kali Yuga, the Lord has interrupted for some reason out of mercy and kindness. So there will be a 10,000-year golden age in Kali Yuga, which is very rare. But then in this age, people will, during this time, people will put more focus on spirituality, service to God and each other, kindness, truth, that kind of thing. So what we see now is 500 years ago, Lord Chaitanya, which is Krishna or God himself, actually inaugurated the golden age because he gave the chanting of the holy names of God. And that is what is going to bring the age up, because God's names are non-different from him. And when you chant God's name, it purifies you and it purifies the atmosphere. So this is what the Hare Krishna movement is all about, spreading this name, spreading the knowledge. So Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago, and there are 427,000 more years of Kali Yuga. And the scriptures say, the Vedas say, that at the end of Kali Yuga, things will be so horrible that people will be giving birth to children just to eat them, and they'll be hunting spiritual people down like animals, and that all the good qualities of mankind will be diminished. So hopefully people who are wise, they'll take advantage of this opportunity of within the 10,000 years to become self-realized, so they don't have to come back into that hellish situation.
There's 400-something thousand years. Let's say we went through 5,000 years.
Yes.
And it was passed orally.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think some of it was lost?
Some of the information you
Yeah.
mean about no, because Vyasadeva was a purified saint. And I don't know if you've heard, Samuel, but even some of the ancient griots in Africa, they contained like hundreds of years of history in their heads, and they were passing on to the next one. So, if you think about our mental capacity now, it would seem impossible. But if you understand that people in other ages, their mental capacity was much greater than ours, and the whole atmosphere was much purer, so that they could, retain this information.
They didn't have distractions of music, TV.
And just crime and craziness.
So what makes the Kali Yuga different than, let's not say the first age, but the second and third? What makes it different?
So Kali Yuga is different in that, whereas we said the other two ages were either 100% good or 75% or 50, in Kali Yuga is 25% goodness, and that decreases over time to where at the end it's nothing. And one way that the saintly people describe this, Samuel, is that when people are living according to their standards of humanity, just humanity, without even all spiritual, then the truthfulness, cleanliness, compassion, or mercy, and self-discipline or austerity are prominent in a human being's life. They're clean, they're truthful, they're compassionate. But in Kali Yuga, all of those qualities are diminished. There's practically no real cleanliness, no real mercy, no real discipline or self-discipline. And the one leg that religious principles or human principles is resting on is truthfulness. And that's slowly being eroded. So you have to have those four principles to be strong. So in Kali Yuga, almost all those principles are gone except truthfulness. But again, within the 10,000 year golden age, if people, even a small percentage, become highly advanced or highly evolved spiritual beings, then that truthfulness will expand into cleanliness and mercy and self-discipline.
See, is God making this happen, or He foresaw that we would do this to ourselves?
Very good question. We all have what the scriptures call minute free will. So everything is based on choice, and the choices that we make always have consequences. So what we choose to eat, who we choose to marry or interact with, every one of our actions have a consequence. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's a scientific law. So our choices bring us to where we are. We may not always remember our choices, but just to take birth in Kali Yuga, we took birth based on choices that we made in previous lives. But in this life, there's still a choice, especially as a human being, to understand the truth, to live a righteous life, to figure out who we are. We still have that choice, and God doesn't force it. But here's the thing, Samuel. Anything material, no matter how good it starts, is going to deteriorate. That's just the nature of it. You have a young, fresh body of a baby. They grow up. They live for some time. They produce byproducts. Then they start going down. A piece of fruit, it can be the juiciest after a while. So anything material is going to diminish. That's just the nature of material. Spiritual things never diminish. So it's over time, anything material. So that's why the ages go like that. And it's cyclical. You have the Satya Yuga, Age of Goodness, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. And then at the end, when all goodness is gone, the Lord is just, everything is destroyed, and then it starts all over again, the cycle. A new good age of goodness will start, and on like that. Well, the scriptures kind of tell it that, like as I was saying, the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th and 12th cantos, it describes Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga, how all these ages, kind of run into one another, and then how the new age starts. And that's a kind of a mercy of God too, that when things get so bad, He steps in, cleans it up, and it starts again. God, out of His compassion and mercy, will step in, cleanse off the earth, and it'll start again. So in that way, it's some similarities, because the Vedas deal with ancient millions of years. A lot of the more recent religions, Christianity, Islam, they don't go back, like that. But they do talk about creation, that in the beginning everything was good. God created everything good. So in that way, it's very similar to the Vedas. And they do talk about how we have a choice to obey God, and if we obey God, then things will be good. Because even now, Samuel, if the majority of people, or even a large minority, would make a choice to live righteously, the atmosphere would change, because our consciousness affects the atmosphere, vice versa, you know. And the Vedas talk about that in the age of Kali, everything would be based on money, that if you don't have money, you won't get justice. I mean, we see that even now. We've only 5,000 years into Kali Yuga. But it's so right on describing the qualities of Kali Yuga. And you know what, Samuel? When I was younger, it just seems like things are exponentially increasing in sort of a negative way. But the good news is, because there are some who are now making a choice to serve the one God and to live righteous lives and to call his name, then this age of goodness, or the 10,000-year golden age within Kali Yuga, is gradually going to come. And so you could say, well, Krsnanandini, I don't see it, everything looks bad. But you know how, like, whenever two things, like you're changing the guard and there may be an overlapping, so you, at that point where they overlap, it looks negative or whatever. But if, you know, if the people would take to the process of self-realization, Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness, then things would change.